In June 2009, during a family gathering in the remote hills of North Carolina, I found myself embroiled in a chilling encounter that I'll never forget. We were visiting my cousins for a family reunion, nestled in the secluded forests of the Appalachian Mountains. These woods were notorious for their ghost stories, with locals whispering tales of mysterious apparitions and unexplained phenomena. One evening, after the family festivities had wound down, my uncle suggested a trip to the nearby Appalachian National Park. Eager for adventure, my parents, brother, aunt, uncle, and I piled into the car for the excursion. As dusk began to fall, we arrived at the park entrance, only to find that it was closing for the day. Strangely, the park staff urged us to stay overnight at a nearby lodge, warning against traveling back after sunset. Ignoring their advice, my uncle reassured us, and we set off on the journey home. As darkness enveloped the winding mountain roads, my aunt cautioned my cousins against sharing any ghost stories. Relieved, I settled into my seat, grateful to avoid any additional spookiness. However, during a rest stop at a roadside diner, my cousins shared a disturbing tale they had heard from the locals. They recounted a chilling legend about a stretch of road further ahead, where a spectral hitchhiker, believed to be the ghost of a woman killed in a car accident years ago, would appear to passing motorists. Those who offered her a ride reported her sudden disappearance, while those who refused were haunted by her ghostly pursuit. Alarmed by their story, I sought confirmation from the diner owner, whose grim nod only heightened my unease. When I relayed the tale to my uncle, my cousins received a stern reprimand, confirming the validity of their tale. As we resumed our journey, tension hung heavy in the air. In the darkness, we spotted a figure on the roadside, shrouded in white, slowly approaching the road. My uncle accelerated, but the car abruptly came to a halt with a sickening thud as it collided with the mysterious figure. Panic surged through the car as we frantically tried to restart the engine, but to no avail. Suddenly, the ghostly figure materialized at my window, its twisted visage pressed against the glass, sending shivers down my spine. With a collective scream, my family and I were plunged into terror. Miraculously, the car roared to life, and my uncle wasted no time in speeding away from the haunting scene. None of us dared to look back as we raced towards safety. The memory of that chilling encounter burned into our minds. Returning home, we sought solace in each other's presence, the harrowing events of that night etched in our memories. The car, bearing scars from its encounter with the supernatural, was eventually sold, a haunting reminder of our brush with the unknown. Years later, the mere thought of that night still sends shivers down my spine, a chilling reminder of the unseen forces that lurk in the shadows of the Appalachian Mountains. As we trudged along the deserted highway, our senses heightened by the palpable tension in the air, we encountered an unexpected obstacle. Just as we were about to pass a crumbling roadside structure, a blood-curdling scream pierced the silence, sending shivers down our spines. My girlfriend and I froze in our tracks, our hearts pounding in our chests, as we scanned the darkness for any sign of danger. The scream echoed through the desert like a ghostly lament, each wail sending a chill down my spine. Without hesitation, we hurried towards the source of the sound, our footsteps quickening with each passing moment. As we approached the abandoned structure, the darkness seemed to press in around us, the air thick with an oppressive sense of foreboding. And then, emerging from the shadows, we saw her, a young woman, her features twisted in terror as she cowered against the crumbling walls of the structure. Her eyes were wide with fear, her breath coming in ragged gasps as she frantically gestured towards the darkness beyond. With a sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach, I realized that she was not alone. Lurking in the shadows were a group of shadowy figures, their forms indistinct and ethereal in the dim light. Instinctively, I reached for my girlfriend's hand, the warmth of her touch a reassuring anchor in the sea of uncertainty that surrounded us. Together, we made the decision to confront the unknown, to face whatever horrors lurked in the darkness and emerge victorious. Summoning every ounce of courage within us, we stepped forward into the darkness, our hearts pounding in our chests as we prepared to confront whatever lay ahead. And as we ventured deeper into the shadows, the screams grew louder, echoing through the desert like a macabre symphony of terror. But even as fear threatened to consume us, a glimmer of hope appeared on the horizon, a faint glow that grew brighter with each passing moment. And then, emerging from the darkness like a beacon of light, was the silhouette of a man, his features obscured by a thick beard. With a voice that seemed to resonate from another realm, he offered his assistance, claiming to possess knowledge of the desert's ancient spirits. Despite our apprehension, we had no choice but to trust in this enigmatic stranger, for he was our only hope of escaping the clutches of the desert that threatened to consume us whole. With a final wrench of his tools, the mechanic completed his task, the car roaring back to life with a renewed sense of purpose. As we sped away into the night, leaving the ghostly apparitions behind us, I couldn't help but wonder, had we stumbled upon a portal to another realm, or were we simply victims of our own overactive imaginations? To this day, the memory of that night haunts me like a lingering specter, a reminder of the fragility of our existence in the face of the unknown. And as I gaze out into the vast expanse of the desert, I can't help but feel a sense of unease, as if the spirits of the Mojave are still watching, waiting for their next unwitting victims. But amidst the darkness and uncertainty, there is also a glimmer of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of nights, there are still beacons of light to guide us home. It was a typical evening at the sprawling mansion where I shared residence with a handful of roommates. The day had been long, and the weariness in my bones beckoned me to my room earlier than usual. Bid good night to my companions, I retreated into the quiet solitude of my chamber, eager for the embrace of sleep. As the night wore on, a sudden restlessness stirred within me, jolting me awake from the depths of slumber. My throat parched and dry, I stumbled out of bed, the darkness of the room cloaking me like a heavy blanket. The mansion was silent, save for the faint rustle of the wind whispering through the corridors. With tentative steps, I made my way down the dimly lit hallway, the floorboards creaking beneath my weight. It was then that I noticed it, a faint glimmer of light flickering in the distance, casting long, dancing shadows along the walls. Intrigued yet unnerved, I felt a shiver crawl up my spine as I approached the source of the illumination. As I drew closer, the light coalesced into the form of an old lantern, its flame casting an eerie glow upon the surroundings. But what truly caught my attention was the figure standing beside it, a shadowy silhouette that seemed to materialize out of thin air. My heart quickened its pace as I stared, transfixed, at the mysterious apparition. It stood there, unmoving, its features obscured by the darkness, yet radiating an otherworldly presence that sent a chill down my spine. Unable to tear my gaze away, I watched in silent terror as the figure turned towards me, its eyes gleaming with an otherworldly luminescence. And then, with a voice that seemed to echo from the depths of the abyss, it spoke, a whisper so faint yet so chilling that it sent shivers coursing through my veins. Who are you?" I managed to stammer, my voice barely above a whisper. But the figure remained silent, its gaze piercing through me with an intensity that seemed to strip away the very essence of my being. In that moment, I felt as though I stood on the precipice of a realm beyond comprehension, a world where the line between the living and the dead blurred into obscurity. And then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the apparition vanished into the darkness, leaving me standing there, trembling and alone. My mind reeled with a maelstrom of emotions, fear, confusion, and a gnawing sense of unease that refused to dissipate. For nights to come, I found myself haunted by the memory of that encounter, the specter of the unknown lingering at the edges of my consciousness. It was a brush with the supernatural, a chilling reminder of the fragility of our reality, and the mysteries that lie beyond the veil of darkness. A week had passed since that chilling encounter in the countryside, yet the memory gnawed at our minds like a persistent nightmare. Despite our attempts to shake off the unsettling events, the specter of that fateful night loomed large, casting a shadow over our every thought and action. The sight of those 11 figures, clad in strange and sinister costumes, danced like phantoms in the recesses of our minds. The memory of their twisted rituals, illuminated by the flickering flames of a small fire, sent shivers down our spines whenever we dared to recall it. But it was the figure dressed as the devil, with his leering grin and malevolent gaze, that haunted our dreams with its chilling intensity. His predatory actions, stripping one of the women bare in a matter of minutes, spoke of unspeakable horrors lurking beneath the surface of their macabre festivities. As the days stretched into weeks, we found ourselves consumed by an insatiable thirst for answers, driven by a primal fear that clawed at the edges of our sanity. Each night, we lay awake, tormented by the echoes of distant laughter and the whispered incantations of unseen forces. Desperate for closure, we embarked on a harrowing journey into the heart of darkness, determined to uncover the truth behind the enigmatic gathering that had ensnared our souls. Armed with little more than our wits and a flickering lantern to pierce the shadows, we ventured into the depths of the countryside once more. What we discovered chilled us to the bone and tested the limits of our courage. Hidden beneath the veil of night, we stumbled upon a forgotten graveyard, where crumbling tombstones bore witness to the atrocities committed in the name of dark and ancient powers. And there, amidst the ruins of forgotten souls, we came face to face with the true horror that lurked in the shadows, a malevolent force beyond mortal comprehension, beckoning us into its embrace with outstretched claws and eyes that burned with an unholy fire.